Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin tonight in Kimmirut, Nunavut, where a coroner's inquest is underway looking into the death of George Arluktu. Arluktu died in 2019 after an incident involving police. TJ Deer is following the inquest and has our top story tonight.
A warning that this story contains graphic details.
The small size of Kimmirut made jury selection challenging. Chief Coroner Michael Foote asked prospective jurors to consider their relationship with George Arluktu before asking to leave. Some prospective jurors said that they would struggle with hearing the evidence and would not deliver a fair verdict. In the end, 6 jurors and an alternate were selected. In his opening statement to the jury, the coroner's lawyer summarized the events leading to Arluktu's death. Police responded to a call 6 years ago and claimed that Arluktu was a danger to himself after stabbing his girlfriend. RCMP officers talked to Arluktu through the door of his house, but felt they had to force their way in. Arluktu then stabbed himself several times. Police took him to the health center, where he died from his injuries.
The coroner's lawyer also said that Arluktu had previously attempted suicide. One of the RCMP's lawyers said that police were treating the call as a mental health crisis and were not looking to arrest Arluktu. The inquest is expected to last the rest of the week. TJ Deer, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Imperial Oil has cleared an important hurdle for its operation in Norman Wells Northwest Territories. The Federal Minister of Crown Indigenous Relations has renewed its water license. Imperial Oil can keep its Norman Wells site running for another 3 years. The documents were filed with the Mackenzie Valley Land and Water Board last week. The renewal ensures the company can keep running during an environmental assessment. Imperial has applied to renew its license for 10 years. The 3-year extension runs until May 3rd, 2028. Iqaluit's mayor is calling on the federal government to take immediate action as the city grapples with its Inuit Child First funding potentially coming to an end. Money for the program was renewed earlier this month, but in a news release late on Friday, Mayor Solomon Ava says the city is still waiting for its request to be reviewed. He says communities depend on the money to support essential programs like food vouchers, mental health services, and educational support. He called the federal government's silence unacceptable. Today is day 9 of the federal election campaign, and it's the first time since the writs dropped that a party leader made the trip north. Green Party co-leader Jonathan Pedneau met with Yukon candidate Gabrielle Dumont. Pedneau also unveiled the party's plan for national defense. It includes the creation of a National Defense Corps and the expansion of the Canadian Rangers. Pedneau says fighting the effects of climate change is part of national security.
This is not a call for militarization, and it's important to say. It's a call for community, for readiness, to be ready to help our neighbors in times of need. And this is what Canada is about. It's a place where we leave no one behind, where we take care of our neighbors and our friends and our community. We also propose universal civil defense training so that every Canadian, young or old, will have access, if they want, to basic emergency preparedness skills, first aid, cybersecurity, crisis response, so that no one should be left behind in case of a blackout, a wildfire, or a digital breach.
The Green Party plan would also see the Canadian Forces reserves grow by as much as 20,000 members. Liberal leader Mark Carney has unveiled his signature housing plan, pledging to double the pace of home building in Canada.
We will drive a huge increase in housing supply so we can bring costs down for Canadians. We will build at a pace not seen since the Second World War.
Carney is promising to boost construction to 500,000 new homes a year over the next decade. He says his government would also create a standalone entity that would act as a developer overseeing the construction. It would provide tens of billions in financing to new affordable housing projects across the country. Build Canada Homes, or BHC, would also issue bulk orders of prefabricated and modular homes.
There are some massive differences between us and the other parties. The fact that we want to eliminate entirely the fossil fuel subsidies and Mark Carney wants to continue to give your hard-earned money to these highly profitable companies is wrong.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh was in Victoria today announcing his party's climate platform. It would eliminate what he says are some $1.8 billion a year in federal tax breaks and subsidies for the oil and gas industry, and redirect that money to fund energy efficiency upgrades, mostly for low-income households. Meanwhile, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is promising to create a national energy corridor. He says it will expedite approvals for large-scale projects to help ship Canadian resources across the Atlantic to Europe.
With Donald Trump threatening our country with tariffs, we need big projects that link our regions east to west. We need to be able to get our resources across Canada, bypassing America, so we can trade more with each other and sell our resources to the world.
Poilievre says the corridor would lower dependency on the U.S. as the main buyer of Canadian oil. The Conservative leader also says he would first seek pre-approvals from provinces and First Nations for pipelines and other energy projects. He says that would allow Canada to guarantee long-term stability to companies making large infrastructure investments. Nunavut has 2 new candidates running to represent the region. Quebec's Cree Nation Grand Chief Mandy Golmasti will run for the federal Liberals, while Catherine Louis LeBlanc Witaluktuk will stand for the NDP. That riding of Abitibi-Bay James Nunavik EU is currently held by Bloc Québécois MP Sylvie Bérubé, who is running again. Earlier this month, the Conservatives came out with their candidate for that riding, Steve Corriveau. With federal candidates campaigning for your votes, we want to know what matters to you. What's driving your vote this year and why? Here's what we heard when we hit the streets in Yellowknife.
Healthcare and the nursing shortage.
And talk about how we can get some federal fiscal responsibility, get back to, zero deficit, maybe pay off some debt. That's kind of where I'm.
Why?
Why? Because it's incredible work. It brings interest rate down. It brings good programs to fundable programs to people who need it, and nobody can live beyond their means for very long.
So rather than filling up the new immigrants, first Canada needs to think about the temporary workers that are currently whether living in Yellowknife or any part of Canada. Just focus on that, who are paying taxes right now, and supporting the economy, rather than pulling all the immigrants, whether from India or whether from any other part of the country. Because if you are calling immigrants, they are looking for jobs. We don't have jobs right now. Even like the housing, it also causes housing problems. So focus on that rather than pulling all the immigrants, calling them out here, and there will be a struggle and there will be a chaos.
Definitely, for sure, housing. Kind of obvious because, that impact every Canadian life, daily life. And I still think we're a bit of a hard position in terms of housing, so something should be addressed toward that.
Well, how important it is like, I'm a homeless person. I've been homeless for like a year, but I'm trying to get a place, but it's almost, how do you say, housing is non-existent. You go around, our vacancy rate is limited to pretty much nothing.
Those voices from Yellowknife. We would love to hear what matters to you this election cycle, what has you talking. Send us a video telling us about it, and maybe it could air on Northbeat. You can email those videos to cbcnorth@cbc.ca.
The claims period for 2 classes in the First Nations Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principal Settlement is now open.
First Nations children who were removed from their homes on reserve between April 1st, 1991 and March 31st, 2022, and their caregiving parents and caregiving grandparents can now submit a claim for compensation.
There are free supports to help you fill out your form.
And mental health and wellness supports if you need them.
Learn more and submit your claim at fnchildclaims.ca.
If alcohol builds a wall around you, know this: we are here to help if you want us to. It's never too early or too late to ask for help with a drinking problem. Alcoholics Anonymous. There is a way out.
I was fighting losing battles with opponents disguised as friends, and coming home to a different fight that never ends. I saw no other choice. I had to leave a roof for the rain. But sometimes I wonder if there was a path with more to gain. Maybe the opportunities would have been better, and every day would take me further towards something greater.
To help create new paths for youth experiencing homelessness, the Home Depot Canada Foundation is committing $125 million by 2030.
This is CBC North on your smart TV, because CBC News is now streaming local. Local news and weather on your connected TV or favorite device. CBC News North, streaming now.
In your once stolen vehicle in West Africa.
Jumped in a car and then off they went.
I want my truck back.
300% increase in auto theft.
300%.
It's organized crime, well-financed.
They are selling vehicles that are insecure.
They're working on it.
We hear that from a lot of automakers.
Yeah.
We think we found your car.
Oh my goodness.
It's being called a landmark decision for anyone who takes a plane in this country. A court ruling that condemns a major airline for insisting on a confidentiality clause when a passenger was fighting for compensation. It's believed to be the first time a judge has penalized an airline for attempting to muzzle a customer. Erica Johnson of our Go Public team has the story.
So that's some merchandise I brought.
Andrew Douglas regularly flies to Cuba, bringing supplies to people in need. But 3 years ago, WestJet says he can't get on a plane, claiming, incorrectly, that he needs to show proof of a negative COVID test.
It just caught me completely off guard because I thought at first they were joking, right?
But he's not laughing when they turn him away, tell him no refund, just a WestJet credit.
I don't want flyer points. I am not flying WestJet again. So we could not agree.
He files a case in small claims court. In the months leading up to trial, WestJet makes numerous offers, inching up the dollar price each time, but always with a hitch, insisting he sign a confidentiality clause to get his money. So each time, Douglas refuses the deal.
It's not about the money. It's the point of the argument that this buying silence has to stop.
An Ontario judge has now agreed, calling WestJet's insistence on a confidentiality clause problematic and a serious defect, saying there should not be strings attached to receive a long overdue refund.
This is a landmark decision because finally a judge calls out an airline for trying to gag passengers. And finally, a judge says this is not right.
Lukács says he's seen numerous attempts by Canada's airlines to muzzle customers who just want what's owed. Now, he says, passengers can fight back.
And I really hope that this is going to go viral. Every passenger will have a copy there of this decision.
WestJet declined an interview request, refused to answer most of our written questions. In a statement, the airline told us confidentiality clauses are fundamental to making sure both sides can find common ground. WestJet would not say whether it would stop insisting on an NDA before paying out. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
I know it's grey, I'm a little chilly, but actually that adds a little sort of interest, it adds some interesting perspective.
People in Tokyo are flocking to see the cherry blossoms in full bloom, but they're leaving feeling a little shortchanged. Unseasonably cool weather and gray, gloomy skies over Japan's capital is making for a lackluster backdrop for the blossoms. Visitors seem undeterred, though, even with a light rain adding to the misery of the already chilly temperature. Doesn't matter if it's raining or if the sun is shining, cherry blossoms are a sure sign of spring in Japan, parts of Canada as well. In Nunavut, though, that sign is not flowers, it is carnivals and festivals. And in Iqaluit, tunic time is underway. It's full of speed and excitement already. More than a dozen racers competed in the annual snowmobile race to Kimmirut, battling through some rough conditions. Samuel Watt brings us the action.
kicking off tunic time with a big race. 17 snowmobilers raced across Iqaluit to Kiminut and back yesterday, covering a distance of roughly 240 kilometres while dragging a kamutik. But it was rough riding. Miki Joklaita is a former racer who came to watch.
It was so rough. Although I used to join in the race, this is the worst ice conditions I have ever seen.
But that did not stop the racers from going ahead. The men braved rough ice, and the first of the racers made it to Kiminut and back in just over 4 hours. The sea ice wasn't the only problem. There were also technical issues, including Alex Kellerbuck's snowmobile.
I was not happy with my skidoo breaking down.
But he kept going and came in second. The winner, Jamie Aniniliak, thought he was near the back, but when he saw who was in front of him, he realised he wasn't and went full speed.
I couldn't believe it. It was fun.
And he came out $10,000 richer. This was only his second time participating in the Kiminut race, and possibly his last.
I am retiring now. I already won.
But there will be more winners and activities to come as tunic time continues. Samuel Watt, CBC News, Iqaluit.
For the first time in 40 years, regulations for the Yukon's parks and campgrounds are getting an overhaul. Previous rules date back to 1984. They applied to less than 1% of parkland. Now, all of the lands and waters designated as parks are covered. The new rules govern the use of generators and drones, as well as alcohol and pets. The Yukon's director of parks says the camping public was asking for the changes, but she says officials will be patient as people get used to the new rules.
For this year, we're going to be spending a lot of time on education. We just want to make sure people understand. We don't. We know that most people aren't going to go and read all of the regulations, so we'll be focusing on that. Enforcement, we have our park officers, so we always have. This just makes it a little bit easier. So if we do need to enforce, we do have the ability in the near future to write tickets and whatnot. But obviously, we're going to take the education approach first and just make sure everybody understands what the rules are.
And that education starts very soon. The regulations come into effect tomorrow. The company in Quebec that makes the jerseys for the NHL says Donald Trump's tariffs could spell an end for making them in Canada. For the last 50 years, the authentic pro jerseys have been handmade in that province. Douglas Gelvin shows us what goes into making a game day jersey.
For hockey fans, wearing a jersey to support your team for the big game is a time-honored ritual. But how Canadian is your Montreal Canadiens jersey? Well, it turns out quite a bit of it is, at least for now.
These jerseys are made here in Quebec in St. Hyacinthe, and they have been for 50 years.
Mike Quinn is the VP of Sales for SP Apparel. Every NHL jersey that's hit the ice since 1975 has come from them. Unlike the replica jerseys, which come from overseas, he showed us how the game jerseys are made.
It's not like a mass production line.
The yarn is imported from the USA. It's then spun into fabric on site. The fabric is then split and finished in a multi-million-dollar machine. Some designs require sublamination, basically a mega printer. Then everything is cut. A typical NHL jersey is around 100 separate pieces that are all stitched together by hand. The logos come pre-made from China. They are pressed into place, then secured by a worker with stitches. The last step is quality control before packing and shipping.
From beginning to end, right? It's being made here. We're very proud of that.
But being made in Canada comes with a price.
The labor is the big component because you're paying Canadian dollars, you're paying Canadian labor rates.
An authentic pro Canadiens jersey on NHL Shop, run by the American company Fanatics, which holds the contract to all NHL merchandising, starts at $499 plus tax. If you want to add a player's name and number onto the jersey, it's almost $600 plus tax.
What's more, with 25 of the NHL's 32 teams based in the U.S., nearly 80% of everything made for the league in St. Hyacinthe could be hit with tariffs.
A 25% increase in the cost of a jersey to a Fanatics. That's a big number, right? On top of everything they're paying to play, to have their brand in the NHL. So could that mean that they look down the line to find alternative solutions? They probably will.
Trump all along said, we want those jobs to come back to the US like they were in the 1970s and 1980s. And this is one of those things that's easily mobile.
We are vulnerable because the price has a certain elastic, and how long you can stretch the elastic before it flashes in your face. We don't have the capacity to absorb that 25%, and the customer doesn't have the capacity to absorb that 25% increase.
CEO Steve Berard worries about what potentially losing the NHL contract would mean for his 250 employees.
We have a very good relation with the NHL. They really appreciate the product. They really appreciate the fact that it's made in Canada. It totally makes sense. But there's always the elastic that we're talking about.
If they relocate to the US, and there is this wave of patriotism right now, do you decide then that you're going to boycott your Habs jersey, your Oilers jersey? I don't know that this is the type of thing that's going to really make the NHL pause beyond just it's a business decision.
In the end, the NHL doesn't have the final say on where the jerseys are produced. Its partner, Fanatics, does. SP Apparel says that the company hasn't given it any indication yet that it plans to make a change. Fanatics did not respond to our request for comment. Douglas Gellivan, CBC News, Montreal.
Whitehorse's only bowling alley may be headed for the gutter. Management at Northern Lights Bowling say they may have to shutter the Riverdale bowling alley at the end of April. This isn't the first time they've almost closed, but this time the people in charge say it's a real possibility. George Moratis has that story.
Bowling business is booming, at least on this Friday afternoon. For 2 years, longtime bowlers like Lyle Guest have been playing together.
It's an excellent way for a senior to get a little bit of exercise that doesn't do snow sports. Hockey, curling, stuff like that. It's another social evening that you don't sit in the house.
Judy Thompson agrees. She's new to the game.
Me, I was a queen of gutter balls, and I would cheer the gutter balls because I didn't get strikes. And so when I get a strike, everybody knows it.
For Thompson, it's not about how many pins she knocks down, but more how many friends she makes.
Our fun day, it's the greatest thing that we can do during the week, and we have a really good group of ones that keep together. It's our social together, and we just really enjoy.
These days of social get-togethers may be numbered. Northern Lights owners say they're struggling to keep the doors open. Matthew Prophet manages the lanes. Today he's dressed up to celebrate his birthday, but he's worried about what the next month could bring.
The idea of having to close the bowling alley, which has been a part of the Whitehorse for many years, has always been was the hardest thing we've had to do.
With the price of everything from shoes to specialty balls going up, Prophet says rising costs and fewer people bowling has forced the owner's hands.
I'm going to be struggling next winter, trying to figure out, okay, I need to find something else to do.
It's disappointing. It's really sad because this is something we've had the last 2 years or so where we've just been able to enjoy it together. We have gatherings, like we'll have parties before bowling too, and it's just really joined us together.
This isn't the first time the lanes have faced closure, but this time owners say they may have no choice.
This is a real threat. This is like we could lose the only thing we get to do in the winter.
Owners say unless something changes, their last day open will be April 27th. George Moratis, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Tonight, we're saying farewell to a treasured and valued colleague at CBC North. Eva Michael is retiring.
Eva Michael.
You may recognize Eva from her 3 years as host of Igala, CBC's Inuktitut language news show. But Eva actually started working for CBC back in 1989. She was the first woman in that newsroom, working as a weekend radio technician announcer. Throughout her career, Eva has covered so many stories. Everything from a visit by Queen Margrethe II of Denmark to the Meech Lake Accord. It wasn't always easy. She remembers struggling with her Inuktitut at first, but her dedication and perseverance paid off. And she's been inspiring others for years to reclaim their language, teaching them to speak with pride and to celebrate their roots. Eva, we hope you know that every story you've told, every word you've spoken, every moment you've shared has made a difference. From all of us, Nakomi, congratulations on your retirement. We'll miss you.
Thank you so much. I'm so thankful. Oh boy.
Your last day.
Yes. Oh, these are beautiful. Thank you. Nakomi. Oh my God. I don't know what to say. Wow, nakuminga você. I'm gonna miss you guys. I'll be around, you know. Don't be a stranger. I need some Kleenex. Thank you so much.
That surprise was from Eva's last show, and we will miss you so much, Eva. That is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/North. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
What kind of Canada do we want for our kids and our grandkids? I want a Canada that works for you. But Mark Carney spent his career hurting workers to make money for the powerful. He made life harder for families and easier for big corporations. And Pierre Poilievre, he wants us to be the US in everything but name. I want a Canada that works for you, where we fix our public health care, get your costs down. Let's protect our kind of Canada. That's worth fighting for.
In your once stolen vehicle in West Africa.
Jumped in a car and then off they went.
I want my truck back. 300% increase in auto theft.
300%.
It's organized crime, well-financed. They are selling vehicles that are insecure.
They're working on it.
We hear that from a lot of automakers.
Yeah.
We think we found your car.
Oh my goodness.
One good scheme deserves another.
Stay on him.
I feel we may be in for a challenging few days.
Cheers. Cheers.
$12 new records for a penny.
Sounds too good to be true.
It's not a scam. Cancel anytime. It's all in the fine print.
You're going to end up on the hook for a lot more.
You think I'm stupid? I used your name to sign up.
Alcoholics Anonymous. For more information, visit AA.org.
What do we know? I think we can explain.
About that with Andrew Chang.